My name is Christian von Koenigsegg. I'm 40 years old, and for half of my life I've been on the quest to be a leader in the hypercar industry, utilizing Swedish design.
We have beaten all the numbers. When we started in Vera, it was not normal. Developing a car is an orchestra. You have thousands of moving parts.
2,000 horsepower, 4 electric motors, a record that seemed untouchable, and then, in under 30 seconds, everything changed. A rival company answered back with something almost nobody saw coming. A car running on rear-wheel drive alone. No electric assist, no all-wheel grip, just raw combustion power and a piece of software. The team had kept hidden for months. The margin between victory and defeat? Barely half a second. But the real twist isn't the record at all. It's what happened right after the loser didn't go silent. He went public, congratulating the very rival who had just taken everything from him. So, what really happened? And what does the evidence reveal? Let's explore the story, the record that started it all. To understand why this particular rivalry has captured so much attention in the hypercar world, you first have to understand exactly what's being measured. The 0 to 400 to 0 km/h benchmark, sometimes written as 0 to 249 to 0 mph.
A drag race between a Koenigsegg Regera and a Koenigsegg Jesco Absolute. In fact, it's the 0 to 400 to 0 world record car.
Tests something far more demanding than a simple straight-line sprint. A car attempting this record must accelerate from a complete stop all the way up to 400 km/h, and then brake back down to a complete stop again, with the entire sequence timed as a single continuous run. Why does that particular combination matter so much more than a standard top speed record? Because it tests every dimension of a hypercar's engineering at once: raw acceleration, sustained high-speed stability, and braking performance capable of shedding that same speed safely, all within a span of roughly 25 seconds. A car can be blisteringly fast in a straight line and still fail spectacularly if its brakes, aerodynamics, and chassis can't handle decelerating from those speeds without losing control. This particular rivalry between Koenigsegg and Rimac didn't begin recently. It traces back to 2019, when the Koenigsegg Regera first shocked the automotive industry by setting a benchmark in this exact discipline that nobody else could touch for years afterward. The Regera represented Koenigsegg's hybrid philosophy, taken to its logical extreme. A 5-liter twin-turbocharged V8.
5-litre V8 engine. It produces a megawatt of power. So when this car launched, Koenigsegg
paired with 3 separate electric motors, combining for up to 1,500 horsepower. Built without a traditional multi-speed transmission at all, relying instead on a direct drive system that many engineers considered borderline impossible at the time. For years, that combination of combustion power and electric assistance defined the cutting edge of what a hypercar could achieve in this specific test. What made the Regera's achievement so remarkable at the time wasn't simply the horsepower figure itself, but the radical engineering decision underlying it. Eliminating a traditional multi-speed gearbox entirely in favor of a direct drive system meant Koenigsegg's engineers had to solve problems no production car manufacturer had previously needed to address at this scale, fundamentally rethinking how power gets delivered from an engine to the road across the entire speed range, rather than relying on gear ratios to manage that relationship. the way virtually every other performance car on the planet did at the time. But the landscape of hypercar engineering was shifting rapidly, and a relatively new competitor was about to challenge everything the Regera had established. Rimac, a Croatian manufacturer that had spent years building a reputation purely on electric performance, was preparing a car that would attack this exact record using a completely different set of tools.
I have one canvas doing crazy stuff, focused more on technology in the future.
Right.
And then with Bugatti, with the amazing brand.
Entirely. No combustion engine whatsoever. No turbochargers. Nothing but electric motors. And the kind of instant torque only battery power can deliver. When that car finally arrived, it didn't just compete with Koenigsegg's legacy in this discipline. It demolished the previous benchmark so decisively that many assumed the era of combustion-powered record attempts in this category might simply be over. Consider the broader context that made this possible. Rimac wasn't a hobbyist startup chasing headlines with a single concept car. The company had spent years developing battery technology, motor control software, and chassis engineering specifically tuned for extreme electric performance, eventually building enough credibility and capital to be taken seriously alongside manufacturers with decades of established hypercar pedigree. That foundation mattered enormously once the Nevera R actually arrived at the starting line, because the car wasn't simply fast in a vacuum. It represented years of accumulated engineering knowledge, specifically aimed at proving electric power could compete at the absolute summit of automotive performance, not just in everyday efficiency metrics or modest sports car applications, but in the exact discipline combustion engines had dominated for generations: Rimac's electric strike. When Rimac's Nevera R finally made its attempt at the 0 to 400 to 0 record,
The 400 meters we are reaching the speed so fast. Let's take a little bit better.
the results were emphatic. The car completed the entire sequence using 4 separate electric motors, one for each wheel, combining for a staggering 2,107 horsepower delivered through full all-wheel drive. Why does that specific configuration matter so much for a record built around both acceleration and braking? Because electric motors deliver their full torque, the instant power is applied, with none of the lag traditionally associated with combustion engines building revolutions before producing peak output. 4 electric motors working in perfect coordination, each one independently controllable, gave the Nevera R a level of traction and acceleration control that combustion-only hypercars have historically struggled to match. All-wheel drive distributes that violent acceleration across all 4 contact patches simultaneously, rather than asking just 2 rear tires to handle the entire burden of converting horsepower into forward motion. The result was a new record that beat the previous benchmark by a meaningful margin, instantly establishing the Nevera R as the fastest car in the world at this specific discipline. For many observers watching the hypercar world at this moment, the implications felt significant beyond just the stopwatch. If a fully electric hypercar could not only compete with decades of combustion engine development, but outright surpass it in one of the sport's most demanding tests, what did that suggest about where the entire industry was eventually headed? Rimac himself has been characteristically confident about exactly that question. He has spoken openly about believing electric hypercars will eventually reshape the broader market, Even while acknowledging that building a brand new manufacturer from scratch, competing against companies with decades of established reputation, has never been an easy path. The Navara, he has pointed out, remains the best-selling electric hypercar currently on the market.
We are going to try it against the Taycan Turbo S. Of course, it's not a hypercar like the C2, but comes pretty damn close. It's one of the fastest cars.
Evidence that genuine demand exists for what his company has built, even if that demand operates on a different scale than combustion-powered legacy brands enjoy. That distinction matters more than it might initially appear. Building any new automotive manufacturer from the ground up is an extraordinarily difficult undertaking under the best of circumstances, let alone one specifically targeting the hypercar segment where brand heritage, decades of motorsport credibility, and deeply established customer relationships have traditionally determined which companies survive and which quietly disappear. Rimac, achieving genuine commercial success and a world record simultaneously against manufacturers with generations of accumulated reputation, represents a significant validation of the company's entire approach. But records in this particular discipline have a well-documented history of being temporary. Rimac's own social media response after the record eventually changed hands again, revealed that even he expected this exact outcome. Eventually, despite how dominant the Navara R's run initially appeared. Somewhere in Sweden, a team of engineers who had spent years perfecting a completely different philosophy of speed. There's a particular kind of pressure that comes with watching a rival manufacturer claim a record your own brand had effectively owned for years. Koenigsegg's engineers weren't simply chasing a number on a stopwatch. They were defending an entire philosophy of hypercar engineering, one built around the belief that mechanical precision and combustion power, properly refined, could still hold their own against the theoretical advantages of pure electric performance. That defense would require more than simply matching Rimac's approach. It would require proving that an entirely different set of engineering principles could achieve the exact same result through a fundamentally different path. There's also a quieter, more practical dimension to this kind of pressure that rarely gets discussed outside engineering circles. Every record attempt of this magnitude requires enormous resources, dedicated testing time, and a willingness to risk public failure in front of an audience that has already seen a competitor succeed at the exact same challenge. Koenigsegg couldn't simply tweak an existing setup and hope for marginal improvement. The team needed a genuine breakthrough, something significant enough to overcome a structural disadvantage that, on paper, should have made victory considerably more difficult. Koenigsegg just proved everyone wrong. Roughly 1 month after Rimac's record-setting run, Koenigsegg's factory driver Marcus Lund climbed into the cockpit of a Jesco Absolute at Örebro airfield in Sweden, ready to attempt something that, on paper, seemed almost counterintuitive. Rather than answering Rimac's all-wheel drive electric dominance with Koenigsegg's own hybrid all-wheel drive technology, the company chose to attempt the record using pure rear-wheel drive, powered exclusively by a 5.1-liter, twin-turbocharged V8.
The Koenigsegg Jesco Absolute has a 5-litre twin-turbo V8, and when it's running on E85 fuel, like it is now, it produces 1,600 horsepower,
producing 1,578 horsepower. No electric motor assistance, no all-wheel grip advantage, nothing but raw combustion power sent through the rear wheels alone. Why would Koenigsegg choose what appeared to be a structurally disadvantaged approach against a car explicitly designed to maximize traction through all four wheels simultaneously. Because the company believed that precision engineering, proprietary software, and pure mechanical grip could still overcome the theoretical traction advantage that all-wheel drive provides. The result silenced any doubt. Lund completed the full 0 to 400 to 0 sequence in 25.21 seconds, beating Rimac's Nevera R time by 0.58 seconds. A margin that sounds small until you consider the speeds and forces involved at every single moment of that run. In the same session, Koenigsegg simultaneously set a new 0 to 250 to 0 mile-per-hour benchmark of 17.18 seconds, adding a second record to the achievement. A significant piece of this success came down to something Koenigsegg refers to internally as absolute overdrive. Proprietary software specifically engineered to optimize exactly how the Jesco Absolute's power gets translated into usable acceleration and braking performance through the rear wheels alone. In the company's own official statement announcing the record, Koenigsegg specifically noted that a rear-wheel drive, combustion-engined hypercar, managing to beat an all-wheel drive electric machine with instant torque access, represented what they directly described as a magical achievement. That word, choice, matters. It wasn't framed as simply winning a competition. It was framed as proof that an entire engineering philosophy, one built around mechanical purity rather than brute electric force, still had something profound left to prove at the absolute cutting edge of performance. Think about what that single half-second margin actually represents in physical terms. At speeds approaching 400 kilometers per hour, even minor inefficiencies in aerodynamic drag, tire grip, or braking response can cost a car several tenths of a second across a full run. For Koenigsegg's rear-wheel drive combustion approach to not just match, but beat an all-wheel drive electric competitor by more than half a second required near-flawless execution across every single phase of the run, with absolutely no room for the kind of minor wheel slip or aerodynamic instability that might be forgivable at lower, less demanding speeds. Interestingly, Christian von Koenigsegg himself had hinted at exactly this possibility during an earlier interview at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, telling CarBuzz,
about the horsepower. The Agera R was the fastest accelerating car ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we have the 0 to 300 to 0 Guinness World Record.
Yeah.
that while he expected the brand's all-wheel drive, 2,300 horsepower Gemera would likely be the eventual car to challenge Rimac's record, the rear-wheel drive Jesco Absolute could potentially take just by software. One more attempt at reclaiming the crown first. That prediction turned out to be exactly right. There's something genuinely remarkable about a CEO publicly forecasting his own company's strategy months before the actual record attempt took place, and then watching his own engineers execute that exact plan under intense competitive pressure. It speaks to a level of confidence in Koenigsegg's underlying engineering approach that goes beyond simple optimism. Christian von Koenigsegg wasn't guessing when he mentioned the Jesco Absolute's potential. He understood precisely what his own team's software and mechanical refinements were capable of achieving, even against a competitor with the structural traction advantages of all-wheel drive and instant electric torque. There's something worth appreciating about how much of this victory came down to software rather than raw mechanical changes to the car itself. Absolute overdrive wasn't a new engine, a new chassis, or a dramatically different aerodynamic package. It represented countless hours of refinement in how the existing Jesco Absolute platform managed power delivery, wheel slip, and braking transitions at the absolute edge of what the car's tires and structure could physically handle. That kind of incremental, software-driven optimization rarely generates headlines the way a brand new model launch does, yet it proved decisive enough to overturn a record that had just been set by one of the most technologically advanced electric hypercars ever built. Two philosophies, one obsession. Strip away the specific record numbers, and what remains is a genuinely fascinating philosophical divide between two companies obsessed with the exact same goal, but convinced that fundamentally different paths lead there. Rimac's entire approach centers on the belief that electric power represents the future ceiling of hypercar performance. Instant torque, precise four-wheel control, and a clean mechanical simplicity that combustion engines, with their turbochargers, transmissions, and thousands of moving parts, can never fully replicate. Koenigsegg's approach insists that decades of refined mechanical engineering, combined with increasingly sophisticated software control, can continue extracting performance from combustion power that many assumed had already reached its practical limits. Why does this particular disagreement matter so much within the broader automotive industry right now? Because both companies, despite representing opposite ends of this technological spectrum, have arrived at a surprisingly similar conclusion about consumer demand for fully electric hypercars specifically. Christian von Koenigsegg told Top Gear directly that market appetite for this level of fully electric vehicle remains, in his words, extremely low, adding that an electric vehicle can feel a bit more like a robot compared to the visceral experience combustion engines provide. That's a striking admission from a manufacturer that has spent years incorporating electric motors into its own hybrid systems. Even more notably, Rimac himself has acknowledged a decline in demand for the Nevera, even while maintaining that it remains the best-selling fully electric hypercar currently available.
Nevera is the most successful electric sports car in terms of volumes sold, and there is Neveras around the world with so many very enthusiastic customers that love the car.
And expressing genuine belief that electric technology will eventually reshape the broader market, regardless of current demand patterns. How do two competitors, each building cars representing opposite technical philosophies, end up agreeing on something as fundamental as market hesitation toward full electrification at this performance tier? Perhaps because both men understand something the broader public conversation around electric vehicles often misses. Hypercar buyers aren't simply purchasing transportation. They're purchasing an emotional, sensory experience built around sound, vibration, and a particular kind of mechanical drama that pure electric powertrains, for all their technical superiority in raw numbers, haven't yet fully replicated for every customer. There's an important distinction worth drawing out here between technical capability and commercial demand. Neither Koenigsegg nor Rimac is suggesting that electric powertrains lack the raw performance to compete at this level. The Nevera R's own record run settled that question definitively. The hesitation both men describe is about something else entirely. Whether enough customers at this extreme price point actually want that particular experience, regardless of how capable the underlying technology has become. That's a market question, not an engineering one. And it's precisely the kind of nuance that gets lost when this rivalry gets reduced to a simple narrative of electric versus combustion superiority. There's a useful comparison here to other corners of the broader automotive industry, where mainstream electric vehicle adoption has continued climbing steadily, even as enthusiasm, specifically within high-performance, emotionally driven segments, has remained more cautious. Daily commuter vehicles and family cars face an entirely different set of customer priorities than seven-figure hypercars, purchased almost exclusively for the experience of driving them. Efficiency, range, and practicality matter enormously in the former category. In the latter, sound, feel, and a sense of mechanical theater often matter just as much as outright performance numbers, which may explain why two manufacturers building some of the most extreme machines on the planet have both arrived at such similar conclusions about where genuine demand currently sits. This shared skepticism doesn't diminish the genuine competition between their record-breaking machines. If anything, it deepens the rivalry's significance, transforming it from a simple electric versus combustion narrative into a much more nuanced conversation about where genuine, sustainable demand for extreme performance actually exists going forward, where rivalry meets friendship. What ultimately separates this rivalry from countless other corporate competitions across the automotive industry is the genuine warmth both men have consistently shown toward each other, even in the immediate aftermath of losing a hard-fought record.
I started my journey already in 2011 by breaking 5 FIA and Guinness World Records. And with the Nevera, we broke 50-ish world records.
When Koenigsegg reclaimed the 0 to 400 to 0 benchmark, Mate Rimac didn't retreat into silence or dismissive corporate statements. He responded directly on social media, writing, "Must say I thought that the Nevera R record would stand longer. The R is a rocket ship with incredible acceleration. But I guess, game on." Why would a competitor who just lost a record he clearly valued respond with that kind of immediate, public enthusiasm rather than frustration? Because for Rimac, this entire rivalry has never been framed as a threat to his company's legitimacy. It's been framed as exactly what genuine competition should look like between two manufacturers, pushing each other toward achievements neither might reach alone. Rimac went even further, posting a video on Instagram, personally congratulating Christian von Koenigsegg and his entire team, explicitly describing the rivalry as a healthy battle that continues pushing both companies toward greater engineering heights. In that same video, he traced the rivalry's full history back to that original 2019 Regera benchmark, framing the current record exchange as simply the latest chapter in a story that's been unfolding for years. Christian von Koenigsegg's response matched that same spirit perfectly, replying directly in the comments with genuine warmth. "Great sport, mate. Thank you, and yes, game on." This isn't the language of corporate rivals grudgingly acknowledging each other's existence. It's the language of two men who clearly respect what the other has built, even while doing everything possible to outperform it. That mutual respect extends well beyond social media exchanges. Christian von Koenigsegg, Mate Rimac, and Hennessy founder John Hennessy have personally appeared together for a joint feature with Top Gear, swapping cars at Sonoma Raceway, and openly discussing what makes each other's machines special, with Rimac himself admitting how much he genuinely enjoyed experiencing competitors' hypercars firsthand on track. The two men have also appeared together repeatedly on a recurring Top Gear panel discussing broader industry topics, treating each other as genuine colleagues, navigating the same complicated future of high-performance automotive engineering. So, what happens next in this ongoing exchange? Given Koenigsegg's own acknowledgement that the all-wheel drive Gemera remains a likely future contender, and given Rimac's clear determination to respond to any new challenge, this particular record seems destined to keep changing hands for years to come. With both men, by every indication, thoroughly enjoying every second of the chase. There's a broader lesson embedded in how these two companies have chosen to compete, one that extends well beyond hypercars themselves. Genuine rivalry, the kind that produces real innovation rather than empty marketing claims, doesn't require manufactured hostility or personal animosity to feel compelling. What makes this particular competition so engaging to watch is precisely the opposite quality. Two extraordinarily talented engineers, each convinced their own approach represents the better path forward, pushing each other toward genuine breakthroughs, specifically because they respect what the other has accomplished enough to take the challenge seriously. There's a reason audiences across the automotive world have become so invested in watching this specific rivalry unfold. Season after season, record attempt after record attempt. It offers something increasingly rare in modern corporate competition. Two founders willing to publicly celebrate a rival's achievement, even immediately after losing something they clearly worked enormously hard to claim. That kind of sportsmanship doesn't diminish the stakes of the competition. If anything, it elevates the entire rivalry into something closer to genuine sport, the kind where mutual respect between fierce competitors makes every single record attempt feel more meaningful, not less. 25.21 seconds. A half-second margin.
Rimac Nevera. This is an electric hypercar built in Croatia, nearly 2,000 horsepower, and you won't get it for less than $2 million.
Two different engineering philosophies, both pushed to their limit, both genuinely respecting what the other built. Electric instant torque against combustion, mechanical purity, and neither side treats the other as an enemy. Mate Rimac congratulated Koenigsegg the moment he lost the record. Koenigsegg called it great sport in return. That's not a feud. That's real competition. The record will likely change hands again, and that's the best part of this story. Which approach do you think ultimately wins this race long-term? Drop your take below. Like this video if you love real rivalries. And subscribe. We'll cover whoever claims this record next.